I never thought I'd hold a loaded Glock to my uncle's temple while he begged for his life, like the sniveling rat he always was deep down. 15 years after he swooped in like some white knight savior, pulling me from the gutter where my parents left me to rot. And here we were, me, the abandoned niece turned corporate shark, and him, the billionaire kingpin whose empire I'd just torched from the inside. But the real shocker? As his tears soaked my sleeve, he whispered a secret that made me pull the trigger on everything I thought I knew. Lila.
Kiddo, I didn't abandon you.
I saved you from them. It started in the sticky summer of 10, back when I was 13, and the world decided I was disposable. Detroit wasn't kind to strays. Especially not ones with a junkie mom and a dad who thought family man meant knocking back Pabst Blue Ribbons until he passed out on the couch. One muggy July night, they didn't come home from whatever dive bar they were haunting. Cops found their beat-up Ford in a ditch off I-75. Keys still in the ignition. But no note. No forwarding address, just me, Lila Harper, wide-eyed and starving in our roach-infested duplex on the east side. Social services slapped an abandonment charge on them faster than you can say foster care lottery, but before I could get shuttled off to some state-run hellhole, the phone rang. It was Uncle Harlan, my dad's older brother, the golden boy who'd clawed his way out of the same Rust Belt sludge to become some Wall Street wizard in New York. I'd met him once, maybe twice, at awkward family barbecues where he'd flash his Rolex like it was a hall pass from our misery. Lila, Jesus.
Kid,
Get your ass on a bus. You're a Harper, my Harper now. I'll wire the ticket. Just like that. He bought me. Or so I thought. The Greyhound ride east was a blur of flat Midwest, nothing giving way to the jagged teeth of the Appalachians. Then the concrete jungle of Manhattan slamming into me like a hangover. Uncle Harlan met me at Port Authority in a chauffeured Lincoln, looking every bit the wasp predator in his Brooks Brothers suit. Silver hair slicked back. A smile that said, "I've got this," but hid teeth sharp enough to draw blood. "Welcome to the big leagues, niece," he said, clapping a hand on my shoulder that felt more like ownership than affection. We sped uptown to his penthouse on the Upper East Side, a sprawling glass and steel eyrie overlooking Central Park, where the help outnumbered the furniture and the air smelled like money and regret. He enrolled me in Dalton the next week, trading my thrift store keds for monogrammed loafers and my public school stutter for elocution lessons. "You're not that Detroit trash anymore, Lila. You're Harlan Harper's legacy." He said it like a prayer. But there was always this undercurrent, like he was molding clay that might crack. Dinners were power meals, seared foie gras, and lectures on arbitrage. Him dissecting market crashes over vintage Bordeaux while I nodded, pretending to get it. He was my rock, my ATM, my everything. By 16,
idé acet till sats.
interned at his firm, Harper Capital, and buried the ghost of my parents, so deep I almost believed they'd never existed. But ghosts don't stay buried in this town. They fester, like the brownstone basements that flood every spring. It started unraveling my senior year at Columbia, when I was 22 and cocky enough to think I belonged in the boardroom. Uncle Harlan had fast-tracked me into mergers and acquisitions, calling me his secret weapon, sharp as a stiletto, loyal to a fault. That's when I stumbled on the file, buried in the firm's archives. Labeled Harper Family Trust sealed, it was a digital tombstone, scans of police reports, coroner's notes, and a yellowed envelope with my parents' names on it. I cracked it open in the dead of night. The glow of my laptop the only light in my Sutton Place apartment, another gift from Uncle. The report said my folks hadn't just ditched me, they'd been running. Embezzlement from Harlan's early hedge fund. Back in '05.
Dad.
The numbers guy who'd handled the books siphoned off a cool $2 million to feed Mom's habit and their pipe dreams of a fresh start in Florida. Harlan caught wind, confronted them,
And
nothing official. No charges, no headlines. Just them vanishing, and me left holding the bag. But the kicker? A forged confession, dated a week before they split. Signed in my dad's shaky scrawl. We take full responsibility. The kid, Lila, knew nothing. Protect her. Bullshit. I was 9 when that fund was cooking. But there it was. Black and white. I'd been the patsy from the jump. Harlan had pinned it on them to save his ass, then played the hero when they bolted. He'd buried the evidence, greased palms in Detroit PD, and scooped me up not out of love, but to silence any loose ends. Legacy, my ass. I was his human shield, a walking NDA with pigtails. Rage doesn't hit like a freight train. It simmers, then boils over in the quiet hours. I confronted him that Christmas Eve, snow blanketing the park like a lie. We were in his study, fire crackling, eggnog spiked with his hypocrisy. Why'd you let them rot me there? Uncle? You knew. You set them up. His face didn't crack, just that politician's pivot, eyes narrowing like I was a junior analyst fumbling a pitch. Lila. Sweetheart. You think life's a fairy tale? They were thieves. I gave you a shot they never deserved. Then the gut punch, and if I'd let the feds dig, you'd be in juvie right now. Not sipping Veuve with the 1%ers. He was right. In that twisted Wall Street way. The confession implicated a family member aware of discrepancies. Me. The kid who'd once helped Dad with spreadsheets for extra allowance. Harlan had scrubbed it clean, but the shadow lingered. I could go public, torch his rep, drag the Harper name through the tabloids. Or I could play the long game. Swallow the bile, smile for the cameras at his galas, and carve out my piece of the pie until I could shove it down his throat. That's when the real Harlan emerged, the chameleon who'd built an empire on betrayals. He wasn't just a financier, he was a puppeteer. Strings attached to senators, CEOs, even the occasional mobbed-up developer from his Detroit days. I'd seen glimpses, the consulting fees to a certain Michigan congressman, the offshore shells funneled through Cayman trusts. But post-confrontation, he tested me. You're in or you're out, Lila. Family sticks. So I stuck, diving deeper into the dark pool. By 25, I was closing deals that smelled like insider trading, whispering tips to hedge against crashes he somehow always predicted. Loyalty bought me a corner office, a 7-figure bonus, and his trust, the kind that comes with a key to the kingdom's vault. But trust is a two-way street, and Harlan drove on the wrong side. It cracked wide open during the '22 market dip, when his crown jewel, a biotech startup peddling miracle cancer cures, tanked on FDA scrutiny. Turns out, the trials were fudged. Lab rats lived longer because the data was juiced with ghost patients. Harlan needed a fall guy. And who better than his ambitious niece? The one who'd overseen the diligence? He fed me to the wolves anonymously. Leaks to the Journal. Whispers to regulators. I woke up to SEC subpoenas and my face on CNBC as Harper heiress in hot water. Fury?
Nah.
That was cold fusion now. I lawyered up with the best, his own firm, ironically, and played innocent while piecing together the chessboard. Harlan wasn't just covering tracks, he was erasing mine. The biotech was a Trojan horse for laundering Russian oligarch money, funneled through Detroit real estate flips tied back to my parents' old crew. He'd used their theft as leverage for years, strong-arming suppliers, burying debts.
And me?
I was the clean slate, the pretty face to front the IPO. When it blew, he sacrificed me to save the board and himself. I didn't go down easy. From the ashes of my suspended license, I went rogue. Hired a PI out of Queens, ex-NYPD, the kind who knows every back alley favor in the city. 6 months of shadows, tailing Harlan's mistress, a former model half his age. Stashed in a Soho loft. Hacking burner phones, with a little dark web help from a Berkeley dropout I met in a dive bar. And cracking the family trust's real vault, not the digital one, but the safe in his Hamptons estate, hidden behind a Rothko knockoff. What I found there, a mother's load of venom. Letters from my dad, pre-abandonment, begging Harlan to cut them slack. We're family.
Harl.
The kid's innocent, don't drag her in. Responses in Harlan's elegant script. Family's what I say it is. Pay up or vanish. And photos, grainy Polaroids of a younger Harlan, arm in arm with Detroit wise guys. The kind whose disappearances made headlines. My parents hadn't just stolen, they'd been forced to. To settle a debt Harlan owed the mob for his first big score. When they couldn't deliver, he flipped the script, framed them, chased them out, and left me as collateral. The confession? Coerced at gunpoint.
Probably.
I'd been carrying his sin on my back since I was a fetus. The Hamptons safe wasn't just a Pandora's box, it was a goddamn nuke. I sat in that musty guest room, salt air thick through the cracked window, poring over the docks by flashlight like some paranoid Watergate operative. There were wire transfers to shell companies in Belarus, NDAs silencing whistleblowers, and, buried deepest, a juvenile record for Harlan himself. Expunged in '95, assault on a bookie who'd shorted his college betting pool. The guy's DNA was violence wrapped in velvet. But the real blade to the gut? A birth certificate. Not mine. Harlan's, listing my grandmother as mother, but father unknown. A bastard brother to my dad, clawing for legitimacy in a family that chewed up the weak. I pocketed a USB drive's worth of poison and slipped out before dawn, the estate's gravel crunching under my sneakers like bones. Back in the city, I holed up in a nondescript walk-up in Hell's Kitchen. Cash only. No trace, plotting like a Bond villain with a Brooklyn accent. Revenge wasn't a sprint, it was a marathon through Manhattan traffic. Step 1. Infiltrate the inner circle. Harlan thought I'd folded after the SEC slap, sent me a pity check for hard times, the condescending prick. I cashed it, then used it to seed my counterplay. Rebranded as Elena Voss, a ghost consultant with forged creds from Wharton, I wormed into Harper Capital's vendor list. Posing as a risk assessor for their restructuring, I got FaceTime with the C-suite drones, eavesdropping on conference calls where Harlan's voice boomed like God's own hedge fund manager. Double down on pharma, screw the ethics board, results pay dividends. He was pivoting hard, dumping biotech skeletons into a new EV startup backed by those same oligarch ghosts. Electric cars for the eco-elite, powered by dirty diesel deals in the Urals. I documented it all. Emails, ledgers, even a drunken voicemail where he bragged about burying the Harpers who couldn't hack it. But Harlan smelled smoke. He always did, that predator instinct honed on trading floors where fortunes flipped on a whisper. One night, over oysters at Le Bernardin, he cornered me in the ladies' room.
No.
Wait, that's not right. It was a chance encounter at a Met Gala after-party. Me in a slinky black number that screamed, "New money," him nursing a Scotch neat. "Lila? What the hell are you doing slumming with these tech bros?" His eyes drilled in. That fake uncle warmth cracking at the edges. I played coy, reinventing. "Uncle."
You taught me that.
He laughed, but it was hollow, like he was sizing up a mark. "Careful,
Kid.
some reinventions end up in the Hudson." The threats escalated subtly, Manhattan style. My Elena, alias, got audited by the IRS overnight. My PI vanished for a week, surfacing with a busted nose and a warning. "Drop it, or it's not just you." Harlan was flipping faces faster than a Wall Street pump and dump, doting mentor one call, ice-cold enforcer the next. He even reached out to my old Dalton crowd, spinning yarns about my breakdown to isolate me. Friends ghosted. Invitations dried up. I was adrift in the city that never sleeps. But paranoia keeps you wide-eyed. That's when I met Jax. Or rather, when he found me. A hacker kid from Flatbush. 20-something with tattoos like circuit boards and eyes that saw through firewalls. We crossed paths in a dimly lit speakeasy off Houston, me nursing a Negroni, him pounding Red Bulls laced with code. "Heard you're hunting whales," he said, sliding into the booth uninvited. Turned out, he'd been burned by Harlan too, shorted out of his crypto startup when Harper Capital tanked it for a quick flip. "Your uncle's not just crooked, he's the devil in a pinstripe." Jax was my wild card, brilliant, reckless, the kind of Brooklyn grit that balanced my uptown polish. We teamed up in a fever dream of late nights, him cracking encryptions from a laptop jury-rigged with RGB lights, me feeding intel from the inside. Together, we built the trap. Phase 1. Leak the biotech fraud to a sympathetic reporter at ProPublica. Nothing traceable. Just enough to spike the stock and force Harlan's hand. He retaliated by freezing my assets, but I'd already funneled seed money into a shadow PAC, Citizens for Ethical Capital, bankrolled by disgruntled ex-employees. Phase 2. Dox the oligarch ties through anonymous WikiLeaks-style drops, timing them for a Senate hearing on foreign influence. Harlan spun it masterfully, lobbyists flooding Hill offices, Fox News painting him as a victim of deep state hacks. But cracks showed, board members jumping ship. His mistress, now fiancé, the snake, filing for a prenup audit. The tension coiled like a spring in my gut. Every subway rattle felt like pursuit, every shadow in my periphery. A tale. Jax kept me grounded, his laugh cutting through the fog like a Queen's bodega radio. "We're not avenging ghosts. Lila, we're freeing him." Sex was part of it. Raw and urgent against the cold press of revenge, tangled sheets in his walk-up. The city humming outside like a co-conspirator. But doubt gnawed. Was I becoming him, scheming in the dark? Sacrificing pawns? Harlan's words echoed. Family sticks. And Jax? He was family now. Or the closest I'd had since the bus ride east. Crescendo hit in July 25. Sweltering heat wave turning Manhattan into a pressure cooker. Harlan called a family summit at the Hamptons estate, neutral ground. He said, "To mend fences." I went, wired with Jax's bugs. Elena's smile plastered on. The table was set like a Last Supper, lobster thermidor, chilled Sancerre, and Harlan at the head, silver fox turning grizzled wolf. His fiancée, call her Tiffany. All extensions and entitlement, cooed about wedding plans. Oblivious. Lila. Honey. You'd be such a pretty bridesmaid. I smiled, foot tapping Morse code into the floorboards. He waited till dessert, creme brulee cracking like fate, to drop the bomb. I've been cleaning up your messes.
Niece.
That little leak?
Sloppy.
But blood's thicker. Then the pivot. Eyes softening. Voice dropping to that paternal timbre. Your folks. They weren't saints. Lila. Dad owed me big. I covered. Gave you a life. This vendetta? It's grief talking. Lies layered like milfy. But the performance was Oscar-worthy. Tiffany bought it. Squeezing his hand. Even I wavered. The room spinning with old loyalties. That's when I played my ace. Slid the USB across the linen. Photos of the safe's contents flickering to life on my phone screen. Explain this. Uncle. The mob ties. The coerced confession. You didn't save me, you owned me. His face drained. That chameleon hide molting to reveal the lizard beneath. You little bitch, he hissed. Low enough for Tiffany not to hear. I built this for us. You'd throw it away for what? Vindication. The air thickened. Storm clouds rolling in off the sound. Thunder rumbling like distant artillery. We danced that night. Verbal jabs over brandy. Him probing for weaknesses. Me parrying with half-truths. Tiffany excused herself early. Sensing the rot, Jax monitored from a van down the beach. Our lifeline. By midnight, Harlan cracked, not with apology, but ultimatum. Walk away, Lila. Or I bury you deeper than them. He meant my parents, the implication hanging like smoke. I laughed, bitter as the burn in my throat. Too late for that, as I drove back to the city. Wipers slashing rain like accusations. The real fracture hit. Jax called. We got him, full ledger dump to the feds. Timed for dawn. Elation surged, then curdled. Harlan's words wormed in. Was I freeing ghosts or summoning my own? The road blurred. Taillights smearing red. And for the first time, I wondered if revenge was just abandonment in a sharper suit. Dawn broke over the East River like a guilty conscience, pink and bruised. The skyline a jagged reminder of empires built on fault lines. Jax and I watched from a rooftop in Dumbo. Laptops open. Coffee gone cold as the first headlines pinged. Harper Capital implodes. Russian ties exposed. The Journal led with grainy shots of Harlan boarding a Gulfstream at Teterboro, fleeing to some non-extradition haven. No doubt. CNBC looped my anonymous tip. Insider alleges decade-long fraud. By noon, the stock cratered 80%. Pension funds hemorrhaging. Retirees cursing the Harpers from Boca condos. I should have felt vindicated. That sweet sting of schadenfreude Wall Street whispers about in bullpens. But as protesters gathered outside Harper Tower, signs scrawled with blood money and justice for the 99%, guilt gnawed like acid reflux after a bender. Jax high-fived me. His grin feral. We did it. Lila. Fuck the 1%. We celebrated in a Williamsburg dive, craft IPAs and greasy arepas. His hand on my knee under the table, but my laughs rang hollow. Echoes of a girl who'd once believed in fairy uncles. The fallout was biblical. SEC raids on the 59th floor. Tiffany spilling tea to page 6 about emotional abuse, her words, my schadenfreude's encore. Harlan's boards scattered like roaches. One exec ODing on fentanyl in his Tribeca brownstone. Overdose ruled accident. But whispers said otherwise. And me? Elena Voss evaporated. Lila Harper emerged phoenix-like. Subpoenaed but Teflon-coated. The feds cut me slack. Whistleblower status. Sealed testimony because my evidence was gold. But the real twist slithered in via a burner phone. Harlan's voice crackling from God knows where. Malta. Maybe. Or a Dubai penthouse. Lila. You win. Empire's ash. But before you gloat, read the letter. Attached, a scan, postmarked '09, from Mom. I'd never seen her handwriting. Looping and desperate. Baby girl, if you're reading this, we're gone. Your uncle. He promised to protect you. We stole to pay his debts, but it wasn't enough. He framed us to save himself. Don't hate him, he's broken. Like us. Love you forever.
Mom.
Tears blurred the pixels.
She'd known.
They'd run not from shame, but to shield me from the monster in the family tree. It reframed everything. Harlan wasn't pure evil. He was a product of the same Rust Belt forge, abandoned by our grandfather, clawing for scraps, turning venom on his own blood. The mob ties? Desperation from his youth. Debts he'd dumped on Dad like generational poison. My rescue? As much guilt as calculation. He'd raised me not just to own, but to redeem, pouring his regrets into SAT prep and trust funds, hoping I'd be the Harper who broke the cycle. Or so the revisionist in me spun it. But redemption's a luxury good, and I wasn't buying. I doubled down, testifying in closed sessions, feeding the beast until Harlan's extradition loomed. Jax warned me, this rabbit hole's got teeth.
Babe.
What's next, your soul? He was right. The high faded, leaving a void. Nights blurred into bar crawls down the Bowery. Shots of mezcal chasing phantoms. One bender. I confessed over falafel at 3 a.m. What if I just made him what he was? Jax pulled away then, eyes hardening. Then you're no better. Walk. Lila. He ghosted a week later, left a post-it on my fridge. Freeing ghosts shouldn't chain you. Brooklyn out. Betrayal's echo. Sharp as the first. Alone again. I spiraled. The city closing in like a vice. Protests turned ugly. A Molotov hit Harper Tower. Flames licking the lobby where I'd once interned. In the chaos, I slipped inside, ghost in my own grave, up to the penthouse office. Harlan's portrait still hung, smug in oil, but the safe yawned empty. Echoes of my raid. That's when the Glock appeared. Not mine planted, maybe, by some loyalist drone settling scores. Or fate's cruel prop. I picked it up, cold metal kissing palm, and drove to the heliport where whispers said Harlan would land for one last plea deal. Rain lashed the tarmac, rotors whining like banshees as his chopper touched down. He stepped out. Older. Deflated, cuffs pending. Empire dust. Lila, he rasped, arms open like absolution. End this. For us. I pressed the barrel to his temple, rain mingling with his sweat. For them, I whispered, finger itching. His eyes locked mine, not defiance, but surrender. I didn't abandon you.
Kiddo.
I saved you from becoming me. The secret spilled then. In a torrent, the juvenile record wasn't assault, it was self-defense.
Grandpa.
Drunk and raging, coming at young Harlan with a belt. He'd swung back, broke the old man's jaw, expunged to protect the family name. Dad knew, carried the grudge, stole to spite him. The cycle, abandonment breeding betrayal. Harlan's rescue, a desperate bid to halt it. My hand trembled. Pull the trigger, and I'm the villain, Cold avenger in a rain-slicked coat. Headline fodder for the masses cheering a fallen king.
Let go.
And what? Forgive the unforgivable. Rebuild on ruins. Maybe even love the broken man who'd half loved me? The chopper blades thwacked judgment. Sirens wailed distant. In that suspended breath, I saw us both, products of the American dream's underbelly, where opportunity's just another hustle. Family a ledger of debts unpaid. I lowered the gun, tossed it into the Hudson's maw. Go, I said, voice cracking. But this isn't mercy. It's mine. He nodded. Tears carving rivers. And boarded as feds swarmed, too late for cuffs. But not for exile. Harlan vanished into the storm, a ghost unchained. Months later, I shuttered the pack. Took a gig teaching ethics at NYU, irony's bitter pill. Jax resurfaced via text. Heard you spared the devil. Proud.
I didn't reply.
The city healed crooked. Scars like subway graffiti. Harper Tower rebranded Equity Plaza. My face occasionally in profiles. The woman who toppled a titan. Victory? Or just another layer of the con? Some nights, staring at Central Park's lights from a new walk-up, affordable, anonymous, I wonder if Mom's letter was the real hook. Did I avenge? Or just perpetuate? Harlan calls sometimes. From wherever exiles go. Voice frail. Miss you. Kid. I hang up, but don't block. Blood's thicker than grudges. After all. In America, we don't end cycles. We remix them. Louder. With more bass. And me? I'm dancing to the beat.
One controversial step at a time.